I would say the primary key finding is that trust in most parts of the world is down, particularly in the U.S., which experienced a 20-point drop, which is the largest we've ever seen for any country in any year that we've given the survey for the last 10 years. But the other thing that we found is that trust is very country specific. There is a huge trust divide in the world. There are places like the U.S. where trust is down, and there are places like Brazil where trust is up. And even in Mexico, where trust is a little bit down, it's still higher than a lot of other countries. So trust is something that we know is very country specific.
And what are your guesses for the reasons for the steep fall in the U.S.?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at the news in the last year in the U.S., and it's very easy to see why trust is so catastrophically down. Everything from the collapse of the automotive industry and the heads of those companies having to go to Washington for a handout. The fact that we have had so many scandals, Bernie Madoff, in terms of our financial industry, the fact that the economy is so poor, bottom line, and that there are so many people without jobs and that are suffering. And then, so it's the global economic crisis, but it's more too. It's all of the issues that we're facing in terms of everything from the global financial crisis to global warming.
When you say trust, you mean many different sectors, like government, business, media. Mm-hmm. Who suffered the most?
Business suffered the most. Trust in government is also down in many parts of the world. And in many parts, in 2/3 of the countries that we surveyed 20 countries, in 2/3 of those, trust in government is lower than it is in business. But I would say that business, particularly in the U.S., had the biggest fall. It was only last year where trust in business had been trending upward for the last 9 years, and then suddenly this year it took a 20-point drop and really put the U.S. in the company of UK, France, Germany, places that have historically had a low trust in business.
And before we go back to business, mm-hmm. How about the media?
Trust in media is also down. And you know, there are a lot of different theories for this. In the U.S., we think one of the reasons why trust in media is down is because they miss the story. How could all of these things happen? Why wasn't the media there to catch some of those stories? And it could also be combined with the mass consolidation and the collapse of several newspapers in the States that is also contributing to the lack of trust in media. But I would say that there is what has risen is in terms of risen to the top of credible sources of information is trust in an expert or an academic, a trusted resource, a third-party expert, and that we've seen increase. And we think that's perfectly logical because what it shows is that in times of lack of trust, who do you turn to? Who do you actually look to for trust? And it appears that the answer is that third party, that trusted expert resource.
Mm-hmm. And what would you advise business people to do in this situation of distrust?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there are a number of things that businesses can do during this time. So one, there's this notion of continuous conversations, that you have to have the same message echoed by multiple people in multiple places. We know that in Latin America, in addition, as it is the case with many countries of the world, people need to hear information 3 to 5 times in order to hear it, trust it, and believe it. And so that means that it's very important for companies to speak to their different audiences in a myriad of different ways. It's fine for a CEO to set forth the company policy, but it's really important for those strategies and those policies to be echoed by other people, by those third-party experts, by someone just like me, that peer-to-peer communication. You know, people like to respond to the note.
Perdón, un segundito. Wait.
That's okay. Okay. Well, I was just going to say, and when I said someone just like me, I don't mean me. I mean people like peer-to-peer.
Like you.
People trust
Like
other people like themselves.
Espera. Sí, lo cortamos. Bueno. Okay, and is this negative trust barometer, these negative results, are these good news for PR agencies?
Well, I think it's, yes, I think it's good news for anybody in communications, because I think it represents, what it represents is a wonderful opportunity for business to lead. You know, people want business to partner with government, to partner with third parties, to help fix all of the problems that we have. And how that business or how that company communicates, the ways in which they're going to do so, is more important than ever before. In places in Latin America, trust is up. Brazil, trust is up. And, you know, how businesses respond to that opportunity is going to be quite telling, and could really, you know, help define them in a significant leadership position.
Have you experienced more business or a less smaller fall than other industries in the PR business within this crisis, economic and trust crisis?
You mean in the U.S. or
in the U.S.?
In the U.S., a couple things are happening. So sure, you know, businesses are obviously hurting and closing, and you know, we do see the effect of that as anyone would. I think we, Edelman, are faring far better than our competitors because we're an independent company. We're not publicly held, so we don't have the same kind of financial pressures that some of our competitors might have. But I also see a couple of other trends. I see that companies are shifting some advertising dollars, dollars that normally go to advertising agencies, to PR, because it's so much more cost effective, and they're able to target the message to be so for certain audiences, and it's so much more believable. It's so much more credible. We know that from you know, certainly research that's out there. The other thing that we have found is that there are certain companies who are using this moment in time in the U.S. to further establish themselves in a leadership position, particularly over some of their competitors who may not fare so well. So yes, there are some companies who obviously are shifting plans from communications programs that they may have otherwise were going to do, but I would say in many ways that's been offset by the positive programs that we're seeing companies move forward with, you know, particularly in this time of economic dismay.
My last question is more philosophical, and that is that in this economic crisis, there is a kind of wave worldwide against market economies, and back to some idea of socialism and to more government intervention in the economy. And I think this is not very good news for the business world. Would you advise business leaders to embrace some kind of communication effort in order to restore confidence and appeal in market economy?
I'm not sure that the data takes it that far. Where I think the data does take it is respondents believe, and this was true in Latin America, but certainly true in other parts of the world as well. And that is, people blame both government and business for causing the global crisis that we're in. So both are receiving blame. But here's the interesting part. They are both expected to partner together to solve it. And I think that's where the unique opportunity is. No one institution, not government or business has enough trust to do it alone. But there's a real opportunity for business, even though they can't lead unilaterally, there's a real opportunity for business to partner with government, to partner